there, my name is Kelly Dale and I'm owner of Off the Beaded Path located in Forest City, North Carolina. Sorry I've missed you guys for the last couple of weeks, but I've had a terrible cold and I actually lost my voice for a couple of days. I know some of you actually called the store and heard it, so you know, but lost my voice for a couple of days, but now I'm back on the mends, getting a little better, so I'm back to teach you another fun project this week that will make a wonderful Christmas gift for somebody. Yesterday was Thanksgiving here in the United States. I hope that you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Anywhere else around the world, hope you had a happy Thursday. But for today's project, what you're going to need is some 3mm glass round beads. Now, these are going to go on the bottom of our ring. And then you're going to need 3mm bicone beads. Now, it's easy to learn if you do 2 colors of the beads. If you want to just start out real simple, you could also do a single color, completely up to you. You're going to need a size 15 seed bead, as well as 2 needles and some 6-pound fire line. Now today what I'm actually going to be using is I'm going to use clear and red, because I don't have any clear and red stuff for Christmas. You can do this in any color. I have a black and clear one that I absolutely adore, and I wear it a whole lot. Another thing that you're going to need, and this is optional, but when I make rings, especially since I've been losing so much weight over the last year, and especially if I'm going to make something as a gift, I'll make the ring with a stretchy band. So I'm going to be using the Opalon 0.5mm stretch cord. You can also use this 0.5mm stretch magic, and then you'll want 2 big eye needles to go on each side of that to finish off the actual ring. So get your materials together and then we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing I've done is I've threaded my needle onto about 2 yards of fire line. And at first I was going to teach you the 2 needle technique, but I think I'm just going to teach you the 1 needle. So if you want to learn the 2 needle, just simply go back to some of our right angle weave videos and see it. Okay, first thing, I'm going to pick up 4 3mm round glass beads. At this point, you're only going to be using those 3mm. And I'm going to pull them down here near the tail. And I'm going to take and go back through all 4 of those beads again, going from the tail up. And I'm going to hold the tail in my hand, and then I'm just going to pull that extra thread. So that when I pull both threads, I've got my little circle of beads. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie the tail and the working thread together in a couple of good knots. Just like this. And then I'm going to go through 2 beads. Doesn't matter which 2 I go through. They're next to the knot, which way I start. I'm just going to go through 2 of them so I can make sure to get away from the knot. Okay, I'm going to pick up 3 beads, 3 3mm. My tail is coming out this way. I want to make my circle, so I'm going to come through the bead going this way. And pull. So that's 2 circles now. So I want to get into position up here up top. So I'm going to come through the side bead and then through the top bead. So I'm going to come through the side and then through the top. Okay. I'm going to pick up 3 3mm. This time the thread is exiting this way. I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to make my circle, so I'm going to come this way so that I have made my circle. And then to get into position up here up top, I'm going to come through the side bead and then the top bead. So I'm going to come through the side and then through the top. Okay, so we've got 3 boxes so far. So I'm going to pick up 3 3mm. The thread is exiting this way, so I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come through to make my circle. So I'm going to come through the side bead and then the top bead to get into position. So far I have 4 boxes. So I'm going to pick up 3 3mm rounds. The thread is exiting this way. So I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come through the 3mm, going that same way there to make my circle. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. My ring base is going to be 5 boxes tall by 4 boxes long. So to get into position, all I'm going to do is go through this one side bead here in this 5th box. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to add my row down through here. So I'll pick up 3 3mm rounds. The thread is exiting out of the top. So I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come around to make my circle. So now I have 5 boxes down and then a box side by side here. So I need to get into position for the next box. So I'm actually going to go through all 3 beads that I just added. So 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to come down through the side bead here of the next box so that way I can start the next one. So through the top, through my little side bead here of the new box, through this little bottom bead of the new box, and then down through the side bead of the very next box. Now this time, if you think about riding a weave, every box consists of 4 beads. So what I'm going to do, I already have this bead and this bead that will comprise my new box. So I'm going to pick up 2 more 3mm rounds, and my thread is coming out of the bottom here. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to take the needle and come right here through this bead here in the top so that way it will finish out the box. Now that makes my second box in this row. So to get into position for the next box, I'm going to come through my side round bead that I started with and then the bottom bead of my next box. So I'm going to come through the bead here and then through the bottom bead here. Okay, I've got 2 beads of my new box, so I'm going to pick up 2 3mm rounds. My thread is exiting here, so I'm going to come up through this side bead here to finish out the circle. Now to get into position for the next box, I'm going to have to come through the top one that I was originally exiting, through the 2 I just added, and then on through the side bead of the next box. So through the one I was originally coming out of, down through the side bead, through my bottom bead here, and then on through the side bead of the next box. Pick up 2 rounds. I already have 2 beads here for my boxes. So I'm going to come on through, coming out here. I'm going to come on through this top bead here, going that way. Then I'm going to come down through the side bead of the box I just made, and then on through the bottom bead of the box I just added. Okay, so far this is what we've got. I'm on the last box for this row, so I'm going to pick up 2 round beads. I'm exiting here, so I'm going to take my needle and I'm just going to come right up through the side bead of my first original box. So now I have 2 rows. So to get into position for the next box, I'm going to come through this top bead here and then through the side bead of my last box. So through there and then down through this one. Pick up three 3mm rounds, exiting out at the bottom of the bead. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm just going to come through the bead, going the other way here so that I'll finish out the box and make my circle. I need to get into position for the next box. So I'm going to go through all 3 beads I just added and then up through the little top bead of the next box. So 1, 2, 3, and then up through the side bead of the very next box. I'm going to pick up 2 3mm rounds. I need to make my next box, so I'm going to come through the bead this way. That way that does the next one. And then I'll go up through the side bead and then through the top bead to finish that box. Okay, now I'm just going to continue in this manner, adding my beads until I have my 4 rows. And this is going to be the base of our ring. No rounds will go on top. It's just simply going to be the bicones on the top. Now, if you want to, if you don't want to make a ring this big or 4 rows wide, you could always opt to do 3 rows wide. This is sort of like the pillow top ring, or it's very much like the pillow top ring that I taught a few weeks ago. It's just that this ring has more, it's using a smaller bead and it has more rows to it than the pillow top ring does. So you have a lot more color options that you can really play with for this ring. Okay, so far I have the 3 rows here, just like that. I'm going to continue on. The final row, I'm going to pick up 3 3mm rounds, take the needle, and I'm going to come through the bead going this way here so that I can make my circle. To get into position for the next box, I'll go through all 3 and then through this top, the side bead of the very next box. And I'm going to work and I'm going to get into position for the next box. And if you want to, you can cut, like that little tail thread starting to drive me crazy. So I'm actually going to cut the little tail thread off, and you can do the same if you'd like. There we go. Okay, I'm going to pick up 2 beads. Need to make my box, so I'm going to come through the top bead, going this way. And then I'm going to come through the side bead of the box here. And then through the bottom bead. Pick up 2. Make your next box. And for those of you who know how to do right angle weave, you know, you can just skip on to the next part of the video. But for those of you who don't, this is a great little thing to learn, and it's not hard. For some reason, people do have the hardest time with right angle weave, and I've never been able to figure that out because to me it's so simple. Okay, and I'm working on my final box, so I'm going to pick up 2 beads, and I'm going to come through and finish out the box. So that now I have the base for my ring. and it is 4 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, by 5 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, what I like to do on a ring like this is I actually like to do it in 2 steps, or 2 different little steps here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my needle, and I'm going to go ahead and tie a couple of half-hitch knots here. Sorry, the sun's starting to come on here. I'm going to tie a couple of half-hitch knots. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to do this in a couple of different sections. So that way, if something happens to my base box here, if something happens to it and it comes up, or the top breaks, I won't have to completely do the bottom to redo, have to finish out the top. So I'm going to put a couple of knots in it, and then I'm just going to stitch through a couple of beads and then trim the tails. So that now I have my box. So that I've got my base done, now what I've done is I've taken my tail thread and I've threaded a needle onto each end of my tail thread. And this is the same thread that I was using. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the needle, one needle, and I'm going to start in one corner, and I'm just going to stick the needle through the one bead there at the corner. And then I'm going to put my needles together and pull to get the thread straight. So now I'm ready to start the embellishments. So I'm going to pick up one red 3mm on each needle. I'm going to pick up one size 15 seed bead on one needle, and then I'm going to take the needles and cross opposite ways through that one seed bead, so that when I pull, this is what I have. Now I'm going to pick up 2 more, one red 3mm on each needle, and this time, instead of crossing through a seed bead, I want each little box is going to have 4 3mm over the top. So I'm going to take the needle. I was originally started here, so I'm going to take the needle and come to the very next round bead that's laying perpendicular, and go through it. I'm just going to cross opposite ways. So that when you pull, now you have a little embellishment over the top of the one box. Now I'm going to go up this whole row, adding red up the whole row, excuse me. So 1 3mm onto each needle, let it fall. I'm going to pick up one size 15 seed bead, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through that one bead. I'll pick up 1 3mm onto each needle, and then I will cross through the very next round bead in that row. And you're going to do the whole row in the red, just like I did here. So I have my row of red now, and I'm ready to get into position for the next row. So I'm going to try, last video I done, I had a couple of people who said they had a hard time with this part. So I'm going to try and take this step a little slower, and I'm going to try my best to get this to where you'll be able to see it. I'm sorry it's blurry right now. I'm trying to get it to where you can see it a little better. Okay. Now, I need to get into position on the next row, and I need to be coming out of this bead. I want both my threads to be coming out opposite sides of this one bead. So I'm going to take this one needle that's coming out this way, and I'm going to come down through the side bead of the box, Then I'm going to come through the bottom bead of the box, through the side bead, and then through the top bead. So I'm basically going to go through these 3 beads here. So 1, then 2, and then 3. So that now that needle is in position. Now I'm going to take the other needle and I'm going to flip this over on the back so you can see it a little better. Okay, this is the needle I just finished with. This is the needle I'm working with right now. So I'm going to take the needle and first I'm going to show you. I'm going to come down through this bead, through the center bead, through the side bead, and then through the top bead. So again, I'm going to come down through the side bead, through the center bead here, through this little middle side bead, and then through the top bead, just like this, so that when you flip it back over, you now have a thread coming out of each side of the bead, and that's exactly what you want. Okay, so now I'm going to work down this row. If you prefer, you can flip it and work up the row, whatever you want to do. But this time, I'm going to do my first box as a red. So I'm going to pick up 1 red on each needle, and then I'm going to pick up a size 15 seed bead and cross my needles opposite ways through that 1 bead. Then I'm going to put a red on each needle, and I'm going to cross opposite ways through the next bead in the row. Okay, now for the next 3 boxes, so 1, 2, 3, I'm going to do clear, or you'll just switch to your next color. So I'm going to pick up 1 clear onto each needle. I'm going to pick up 1 size 15 seed bead, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through the seed bead. And then I want a clear on each needle. And I'm going to cross opposite ways through the next bead. So just like that. So now I'm going to do 2 more boxes. So 1, 2 in the clear, and then the last box is going to be red. Okay, so I'm done with this row, and this is what I've got. Again, I need to get to the next row, so I'm actually going to flip it onto the back so that you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take the needle that's coming out this way, the one that's coming out towards my new row. I'm going to come down through the side bead, through the middle bead, up through the side bead, and then through this top bead here. So I'm going to come down through the side bead, through the middle bead, up through the side bead here, and then through the top bead. Okay, so I'm done with that needle. That needle's in position. Now I need to take this other needle, and it's exiting out this way. I'm going to come through the side bead, the middle bead, the side bead, and then through the top bead. I'm going to come around and up. So I'm going to come through the middle bead here, through the one here, this little bottom bead, through the side bead, and then through the top bead. Okay, so that both threads are exiting out opposite ways of the next bead of the box. Now, this row here is going to be exactly like this row. The first box is going to be red, next three clear, top box is red. Okay, so now that you've got this row finished, we need to get into position for the last row. So I'm going to take the thread that's exiting towards the row, and I'm going to come down through the little side bead, through the bottom bead here, through this outside bead, and then through the very top bead. Now I'm going to flip it over so you can see the back. Thread's coming out with the other needle. It's coming out away from the boxes. So I'm going to come through the side bead, the bottom bead, the side bead, and then the top bead. So I'm going to come down through the side bead, through the bottom bead, through the side bead, and then up through the top bead. So now both threads are exiting out of the bead that we need it to start the next row. Now this row, this final row, is going to be exactly like this first row. It's going to be red all the way down. Okay, so that finishes out the row, and that actually finishes out the ring top. So now we're ready to do the band. But to do that, we need to tie this thread off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch one needle around to the other needle so that I can tie the two threads together. So I'm going to take this one here coming away from me, and I'm going to come through the 3 beads of this one box. I'm going to come through the side bead, the bottom bead, and the side bead, so that then I can tie these two threads together. So I'm going to come through here, through the little bottom bead, and then through that one, so that now I can take the two threads and I can tie them together in a couple of good knots. And I normally put 2 or 3 good knots in there. And then I never cut near a knot, so I always stitch through a few beads before I trim the thread. And I do that with each needle. And then I'm going to take my cutters and trim that thread. So that now you have the base and your top finished. Alright, so now we're ready to do the band. And I'm going to be using the 0.5mm Stretch Magic, just because that's what I have in my little box here next to me. So I've threaded on about 12 to 14 inches onto each end, if I've got a big eye needle onto each end. And I'm going to use my 3mm round glass beads that I used for the bottom, because I found that 3mm just work great for a ring band. So the ring is going to lay over the top of the finger like this. You don't really want to do it like this because it's not going to have a natural curve, especially for somebody who has tiny fingers. So you'll want to do it like this. And so to do that, I'm going to take the needle, and we want to come to the center bead of that set of 5 here on the side. I'm going to see if I can bring it in just a little closer for you. There you go. So see, I'm going to go right through that one, and I'm going to pull And I'm going to center the Stretch Magic in that hole. Okay, just like that. Now, we're going to pick up one 3mm onto each needle and pull those down. And then I'm going to pick up one 3mm on one needle, and I'm going to cross those needles opposite ways through that one 3mm. So when I pull, there's my first box of my band. So same thing, one 3mm onto each needle. Pull those down. And then I'm going to pick up one 3mm on one needle, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through that one bead. And pull. And I'm just going to keep picking up one 3mm onto each needle and letting it fall. And then I'll pick up one 3mm onto one needle, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through that one bead. And I'm going to continue doing this until I reach the desired length of the band. Now, I want it to be kind of tight because I don't want this to flop up and down. So just keep going until you think you've got the right length. Alright, so I'm within one link of the length of the band that I need. So I'm going to pick up one 3mm onto each needle. I'm going to let those drop. And then I'm going to take one needle. I'm going to kind of fold my band over, and I'm going to go to this opposite side that I started at, and I'm going to take one needle and I'm going to go through the middle 3mm and pull. Now, I don't really want to cross because with all this thread in here, it's going to be hard to cross it. So I'm going to make sure that my 3mm on the other needle is still down, and then I'm going to take and I'm going to tie those two threads together in a couple of really good knots. Now, when you tie the thread, be sure not to get your 3mm caught up into the knot. And I'm going to tie it into a couple of really good knots. I normally put about 3 to 4 knots, and I pull it nice and tight. And then I'll check it, make sure it's good. And then I'm going to tie one more knot just for safekeeping. And then I'm going to take those two threads and I'm going to trim them off. And so that now I have a beautiful new ring for the Christmas season, or this would be great for New Year's too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this new crystal ring that I taught you, and I hope that you can make this for a lot of people on your Christmas list. Be sure and check back next week for another exciting project on our Christmas gift series. Meanwhile, check out our Facebook page, our Etsy store, and our blog, which is all listed here at the end of the video. So until next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.